Alrighty, welcome folks to Eagles Power Hour, your official, unofficial Eastern Washington affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network and an affiliate member of Fans Nation Network's YouTube channel. I'm your host, Patrick Frakes, and today we are covering some men's and women's basketball. We're going to recap the sweep of Northern Colorado on Thursday and give a little quick and dirty preview for the NAU game Saturday afternoon. I'm your host, Patrick Frakes, and we'll start right off by getting into this Northern Colorado game for the men's side of things. The Eagles pull off a close one versus Northern Colorado. You know, this was a close game, competitive game throughout. Northern Colorado came in probably the best offense in the league, if not number two to Eastern Washington. They were number two in the Big Sky standings to Eastern Washington. So we expected a fun, close game, and we got that. Um, the Eastern started off the game slow. They got into a 7-0 hole really quick. Returned the ball over early. It was kind of a sloppy first half from Eastern. The first half of the first half it was kind of sloppy, turning the ball over, missing a bunch of shots. But one guy that didn't start off sloppy was Casey Jones, and he really kind of catalyzed the Eastern offense to get moving here again. He had a series where he got a dunk, and then got a steal and a breakaway dunk the next series, and then he took a charge again that very next defensive series. He a 6 point or excuse me, yeah, 6 point swing for Eastern Washington, getting them back into the game after a tough start shooting. The Eagles started the game 0 for 7 from deep, which is not typical of Eastern Washington, who typically shoots the three at about 50 to 60% clip, which is ridiculous. But yeah, tough night shooting the three for the Eagles tonight, or Thursday night, I should be saying. But Eagles were able to claw back and take the lead. After a timely three from Casey Jones just after the 10-minute mark of the first half. And they did that by getting the ball inside. Luan Watts had a number of really nice easy buckets inside, making open jumpers, and Eastern was able to pressure Northern Colorado star St. Thomas in the first half and got him in some early foul trouble. I believe he had 3 fouls, like at the 11 or 12-minute mark of the first half. And if you pay attention to Big Sky basketball, St. Thomas is one of the best players in the league. Transferred from Loyola, or I think it's Loyola. I can't quite remember, but um, he was leading the league in scoring at, I believe, coming into this game. I might be wrong there. It might be still Dylan Jones, but got him into some early foul trouble. And kind of forced him to go sit, which was huge for Eastern, especially when you're struggling offensively, because that dude doesn't struggle offensively typically. Um, but both teams traded a bunch of like missed threes and made layups up all the way up until halftime, and went into halftime 31-38 Eastern Washington, holding Northern Colorado to just 31 points in that first half was huge. They're the number one or two offense in the league, one of the best scoring or one of the best shooting teams in the league, and so with Eastern having a really rough night offensively, that defense really came up clutch and held them to just 31 points. Um, like I said, the offense started off really rough, shooting 20% from the field or from the three in the first half, 3 for 15, shooting a lot of threes and only making a few. And Eastern built that lead by getting the ball inside, feeding Luan Watts, feeding Eric Strutt, feeding Price, and that it's good to see there. Eastern had some great defense and hustle plays that really slowed down that offense early for Northern Colorado. It was really nice to see. I already said this, but UNC was the top two offense coming in, and they shoot the ball very well. Just holding them to 31 first half points was a really big deal. And Jaron really had a day. On Thursday. He had 15 of the first half points for Northern Colorado. 15 of their 31 points came from really, really nice, really good shooter there. And another thing to note, Cedric Coward, probably Eastern's best player, had 0 points at halftime. He had kind of an off night shooting. He got into a little bit of foul trouble as well. I know he picked up his second foul kind of early into the first half, which, made him sit a little bit and kind of reduced his impact. So in the first half, he had a tough time. He missed a few shots early, but he was able to dish the ball to his teammates and set some things up well. And it really goes to show how anyone on this team can step up. It was a very well balanced effort scoring in the first half. Um, Eastern didn't shoot the ball particularly well in the first half, shooting 20% from three and 46% from the field, which is okay. But like actual shooting rather than just like layups and jump hooks and stuff was just not going in for Eastern Washington in that first half for some reason. Um, you know, Another thing to note, going 7 for 8 from the free throw line, 87%. That came back to bite Northern Colorado uh, when they only shot 33%. They also only shot 3 free throws, but you know, free throws is something that came back to bite Northern Colorado in the end of this game. Going in the second half, both teams really traded blows, and St. Thomas really made his presence felt in that second half. Uh, he made a ton of big buckets, those threes that he just kind of rises up and shoots over someone's head. That were like, oh shit, getting excited. I know he was talking with the Eastern student section a good amount, which was a great crowd on Thursday night, which was awesome to see from the Eagle student section. Really proud to see that. But most of the second half, it was kind of just trading blows. Eastern maintained kind of a 5 to 7 point lead most of the second half. Funny note: one of the announcers called Northern Colorado forward Brock Wisney a Jack Harlow lookalike, which had me actually crying laughing last night when I was rewatching this game, writing down my notes. Um, Eastern went on a run about halfway through the second half, and they extend the lead all the way up to 11 points. And then after, with a Luan Watts layup, and then after the layup, Luan Watts was called for a technical for yelling at nothing, apparently. It was a very questionable technical, which led to a 5 point swing for Northern Colorado because they got the 2 free throws. St. Thomas drilled both free throws, and then they took the ball and dribbled right down. And St. Thomas just dribbled down and shot a three on our head, and it was a 5 point swing, uh, cutting that lead down all the way to 6 points after extending it to 11. Really kind of kept them in that game. It felt like a point where Eastern was going to be able to pull away, and that tackle really hurt. Um, excuse me, but um, after the St. Thomas three that cut the lead down to I believe it cut down the lead to 6. Yeah. Cut down the lead to 6. Coward hit his one and only three of the night, silencing that run that felt like it was building. It felt like a moment where UNC would be able to take a run and go tie the game up or something like that. And Coward hit a three right in his face, uh, which was a good timely shot. Um, and then again, the lead remained around 5, 7 points for most of the rest of that second half until about the final minute. Northern Colorado was able to close the lead down to 3 points with just under a minute to go. Um, and Eastern got the ball back 44 seconds, and Northern Colorado elected not to foul or not to play aggressive, and they just kind of let Eastern play it out, kind of banking on a miss. Eastern took a long 25-second possession, getting the clock all the way down to 19 seconds. That possession ended up ending in a missed jump hook on the inside by Eric Strupp, if I'm remembering right. And it gave the ball back to the Bears with 19 seconds remaining. Again, they elected not to take a timeout. They just dribbled down the court, and Eastern elected to just let them score with a 3 point lead. They elected to let them take 5 seconds off the clock and hit an easy layup uncontested and get the ball back in their hands with 13 seconds remaining rather than, risking them tying the game up with a timely 3 pointer. And I kind of like this move. Both Jaron Riley and St. Thomas in that second half were just unstoppable. And they were knocking down threes left and right. And so, at least that's what it felt like. I mean, if you look at the stats, they only hit 5 threes, but all 5 of those felt like big shots from both of those guys. And so you kind of felt like when they were bringing the ball back down, it's like, oh shit, Thomas is going to hit a three and tie this up. Allowing them to score, one of their bench guys just dribbled it down and scored it. Gives the ball back to our team, who is good at taking care of the ball most of the time. The turnovers can be there, but it's usually when we're trying to be too aggressive. It's not just like unforced turnovers typically. So, um, we got the ball back with 13 points remaining and a 1 point lead. Got the ball to Cedric Howard. Cedric Howard was fouled on the inbound with 13 seconds remaining. and he drilled both free throws, like very clutch. Drilled both those free throws after a tough scoring night. I finished the night with only 7 points. He only had five up to that point. Tough game for Cedric Howard. Typically, he averages up around 15 to 20 points. So, you know, it was good to see him knock down the shots when it really mattered. Um, then Northern Colorado got the ball back with just 8 seconds or with 13 seconds remaining, uh, and then we intentionally fouled St. Thomas on the ground to put him to the free throw line with a one-on-one, not giving them a chance to take the lead. Um, he had a one-on-one. He missed the front end of the one-on-one, and Eric Strupp got the clutch rebound. Uh, Called a timeout. Eastern got the ball back with it was like 3 or 4 seconds left, thankfully, and we were able to inbound the ball and finish this one off. Really close game down at the end. It was really fun to watch. I got to watch the end of the. I was in Moscow for the NAU Idaho game, so I didn't get to watch the most of this game live, but I did get to catch the end of this live. It was super exciting to watch. You know, both teams had kind of just overall takeaways of this game. Both teams had really sloppy nights offensively. There's a lot of missed shots, a lot of three pointers just getting jacked up that just didn't feel like they should have been. Like a lot of 3 points in transition and weird moments like that isn't typical for both these teams being two of the best offensive uh, teams in the league. Again, the length on defense was huge for Eastern Washington. We had 6 block shots, 4 steals, and forced 13 turnovers for Northern Colorado. Um, the Eagles turned defense into offense in this game, which was huge. It really felt like that's what won this game for Eastern Washington. If you look here, Northern Colorado scored 12 points off of turnovers. Eastern Washington scored 17 points off of turnovers. We won the game by 3 points. It really felt like turning that defense into offense is really what won it for Eastern Washington. Um, all most of the other stats are pretty similar. Um, just comparing, what type of basket it was. Um, but just going offensively for Eastern Washington, it's another really well-rounded offensive scoring night. You had 5 different guys in double figures, and just kind of looking at some individual performances here. Such a coward, only having 7 points was, eye raising. But he had his typical 4 rebounds. He had 2 block shots and a steal, impacted the game defensively, and he hit those clutch shots when it really mattered at the end. Silencing that kind of sparking UNC run after the Luan Watts technical. Really was a big shot from him, and then hitting those clutch free throws at the end to put Eastern up by 3 points. Uh, Again, really nice performance from Cedric Coward down the stretch, even though he had a tough night shooting the ball. Casey Jones had a nice overall game. 13 points. He had 7 rebounds, which led the team. He led the team in rebounds, and then an assist and a steal as well. He really catalyzed this offense early and got them going after a really tough start. Ellis Magnuson had his typical night: 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and I think one of the stories of this game was the energy off the bench. Eastern Washington had 33 bench points, or I believe it was 33 bench points, and it was Luan Watts and Dane Erikstrup had awesome nights. 33 bench points for Eastern, 7 for Northern Colorado. Most of their scoring came from just 2 starters. Um, Luan Watts had 12 points and shot 75% from the field with 4 rebounds, 2 of which being big offensive rebounds that led to second chance points and a steal off the bench. Watts had a really nice night inside. He was having some great footwork and, shooting 75% from inside. And I believe like one of the only shots he missed was kind of a awkward little jump hook that just totally missed everything, which is kind of interesting. But Luan Watts also really made a big impact with just little hustle plays that don't show up in the stats. Little things, tipping passes, saving balls from going out of bounds, saving the ball underneath the basket and getting it to our guy. Casey Jones made a few of those really nice hustle plays as well. He had one really funny, like a cool looking play where he saved the ball, tossed it behind his back, and it was just, I don't know, fun to watch, fun to see. But Luan Watt's hustle has been awesome this year, and that did not stop tonight or Thursday night, I should be saying. I'm recording this on Friday morning. Eric Strip also led the team in scoring with 16 points. He had 3 rebounds and 2 blocks and a steal off the bench as well. Eric Strip has just been awesome. He should be the front runner for Sixth Man of the Year in the conference, in my opinion. The dude has been lights out off the bench, and he's been really fun to watch get better, both offensively and defensively. His shooting stroke's gotten more consistent. He's, jumping passing lanes more. He's blocking shots more. And yeah, really, really excited to see how well he's developed from, last year. Um, 46 of Northern Colorado's 74 points came from 2 players. St. Thomas had another impressive night. Their stud forward. He had a double-double with 20 points, 10 rebounds. He shot 45% from the field, but he was in foul trouble all night, and I think that was huge. He got his 4th foul relatively early in the second half, and having him in foul trouble really helped Eastern relieve a little bit of pressure. They attacked him early, and it definitely felt a little bit. A few of those fouls that went on Thomas were a little questionable, that's for sure. But you know, I'm fine with it because it helped Eastern. But you know, it felt like Eastern went and attacked him, and I think that was a great game plan from David Riley because it allows him it puts pressure on him to make big plays and not foul. And since he got into his foul trouble, he had to sit on the bench a lot of this game, and it kept Eastern in it with a rough shooting night, one of the roughest of the year so far on conference play. Um, Jaron really had an awesome night shooting for them as well. He had 26 points, just shy of 60% from the field. He made 3 threes and had 4 assists. Really, I believe he's a Stanford transfer. He had an awesome night with his wacky hair. Another funny comment from the broadcasters. They zoomed in on Jaron really, and then he goes, "We have some of the best hair in the Big Sky Conference." I don't know why that shit made me laugh. I don't remember if it was Axton or the other guy, but it was just funny. Um, Eastern also made Northern Colorado studs turn the ball over. St. Thomas had 3 turnovers, as well as Jaron really had 3 turnovers, making up almost half of their 13 turnovers. They also made up just about half of their points. It's good to see Eags forcing the other team's really good players to turn the ball over. Um, it's something you really like to see, and turning those turnovers into points. Uh, Northern Colorado, this was another really, really big thing in this game. Northern Colorado shot 58% from the free throw line. They missed 5 free throws, going 7 for 12 to Eastern's 78%, shooting 15 for 19. I do think free throws and points off of turnovers kind of were the difference in this game. That's the 2 categories where Eastern outscored them. And, you know, the free throws came in clutch down the stretch. Casey Jones knocked down 2 big free throws in the final 2 minutes. Cedric Howard knocked down those clutch free throws at the end. And you missed 3 or 4 of those free throws, and Northern Colorado wins this game. So, shooting good from the free throw line, really good to see, especially from a team that, when you look at them, they don't necessarily look like they'd all be lights out shooters. So it's nice to have that consistency from the free throw stripe for Eastern Washington. And it felt like Eastern answered every big shot from Northern Colorado. St. Thomas and really Jaron really both hit tons of just felt like not dagger threes, but just big threes that would get a run going, or big shots that would hit a run going. And Eastern answered every time, despite having a really tough night shooting, one of the toughest of the year so far, shooting 47% from the field and 23% from 3. Worst 3-point percentage, worst 3-point performance of the year so far. At least conference slate so far. Like I said, it felt like we answered. St. Thomas would hit a big 3, and then we come back down, hit a layup to only make that a 1-point swing, or Jaron really would hit a nice mid-range jumper. We'd come down and hit a three. Like it felt like every big bucket from them had an answer from Eastern Washington, and it definitely felt like that because that lead stayed at like 5 or 7 points basically that whole second half. Um, very nice to see. This was just overall a very well-rounded team win for Eastern Washington. Really fun game to watch and rewatch. Watch on replay. Overall, well-rounded performance, but the shooting's got to get better. And the early turnovers. For some reason, the first halves have been kind of tough for Eastern Washington. Uh, been a lot of sloppy-ish first halves, like versus Idaho, keeping it close in that first half versus Weber State, getting down really bad early in the first half. It'd be nice to see the Eags start off the first halves a little bit hotter, but um, it's kind of like the anti-Idaho, where Idaho starts off their first halves really hot, playing really well, and then their second halves have just been horrible. Eastern's been kind of the opposite. Their second halves have been phenomenal, but their first halves have been kind of brutal. So, um, just looking at the Big Sky standings here now, Eastern Washington is back atop, staying atop the Big Sky, undefeated in conference play at 6-0. Montana State moves into second place at 5-2. Then Northern Colorado moves down to third place at 4-2. Montana sits in fourth at 4-3. And then NAU, who we will be previewing here in a minute, they sit at 3-3 with a win over Idaho, Portland State, and Weber State. Down there at 3-4. At that would be 5-6 or 6-7. Idaho State at 8 with 2-5. Sac State at 9 at 2-5, and Idaho in dead last at 1-5. Once again, Idaho's on a tough streak there, but um, yeah, I believe that's about all we got there. Moving into the women's game. Here we go. Alrighty, moving into the women's game. This one was a really fun one to watch as well. This women's team played a really nice game against Northern Colorado. That again, kind of like the men's team, they started off tough. We're gonna go to the box score here. It was a defensive battle early for this women's game. Both teams turned the ball over back and forth, like 2 or 3 times. But it really felt like Eastern was forcing the turnovers, and then they were making unforced turnovers on the other end. Eastern was turning the ball over on defense by, having really active hands, tipping passes, pickpocketing ball handlers, and then on offense they were just passing the ball to the other team or just losing a ball out of bounds and little things like that weren't totally forced. In that first half, when they were down by, they entered the end of the first quarter. I meant to say first quarter. Entered the end of the first quarter down 4 to Northern Colorado, who was shooting really well and shooting relatively well, I should say. But Eastern was struggling on the boards as well. Eastern was giving up a bunch of offensive rebounds in that first quarter, excuse me. And man, I keep saying first half because of freaking men's basketball. But that first quarter gave up a ton of second chance points off of offensive rebounds, and I felt like a part of that was Millie Knowles, forward number 21. Millie Knowles got into some foul trouble early, and so post Bella Hayes had to come in big, tall, but she struggled a little bit on the defensive glass to start off the game. But she made up for it on the defensive end of the defensive side of things. She made an impact, blocking 2 shots towards the end of that first quarter. Relieving Millie Knowles with the foul trouble she was in. Eastern got beat on the offensive glass early. They gave up a bunch of offensive rebounds to Northern Colorado. They struggled to finish at the rim, and Northern Colorado wasn't in that first quarter, which is why they got that lead. But it really felt like the rest of the game, Eastern was the better team. In the second quarter, Eastern started kind of doing what UNC did to them in the first quarter. Eastern was crashing the offensive boards, made it really tough for Northern Colorado on the inside. They missed a couple of contested layups down the inside. Hayes had a really nice second quarter. Bella Hayes, the post. she was on the offensive board. She had a bunch of second chance points. I think almost all of her points were second chance buckets off of the offensive glass. Um, whether it be from the free throw stripe or not. Um, they ended up. It was a pretty evenly matched second quarter. Northern Colorado. Eastern outplayed Northern Colorado, and Northern Colorado hit a couple of kind of just timely threes. They shot really. I think they went 3 for 3 in the second quarter. Um, their leading scorer, what's her name? Delaney Byrne hit 2 or 3 threes in that second quarter that kept it close. It really felt like Eastern dominated that second quarter overall, but um, yeah, just looking at the kind of shooting percentages, Eastern shot well in the first quarter, but they struggled on the inside. They were making their jumpers, they were making, they're making the 3 pointers as well, but just in the inside, it felt like they were missing their easy layups. And in the second quarter, it felt more like the second quarter, Eastern couldn't shoot the three to save their life, but they were making those contested shots on the inside more often, is what it felt like. Anyways, if you look at the stats, it doesn't necessarily look like that. But yeah, 5 free throws as well, which is something else to note. Northern Colorado, they were shooting really well from the three in that first half, and it's kind of what kept it close. Eastern played good interior defense in that first half, but they hit Semitol and Byrne both hit some timely threes in this game, or no, not Semitol. Byrne and Hackley both hit a couple of timely threes in that second quarter, um, keeping it close, even though it really felt like Eastern dominated that second quarter overall. Um, Eastern was down by 2 at halftime. It felt like a pretty evenly matched game that to that point. It was like one quarter went to Northern Colorado, one quarter went to Eastern. It was a 2 point game. Um, and the second chance buckets really kept Eastern in that game in the second quarter after a 0 for 7 dry spell from three in the second quarter. Excuse me. Jeez, I keep saying that. Um, Third quarter started off, it was a lot of missed shots from both sides, but the Eags continued to crash the glass really hard. More of their second chance points. I keep saying second chance points, so that was a big, big point in this game. Uh, Eastern took their first lead their first lead since the first quarter, with 4 minutes remaining in the third quarter. Um, again, more second chance points allowed a quick little run there at the end of the third quarter, and allowed the Eastern to build a 7 point lead all of a sudden in the final 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. Went up by 7 points going into the fourth quarter, I believe. Yes, went up by 7 going into the fourth quarter. And they just never let go of the lead. They played really tough defense in that fourth quarter. Leela Alexander had a couple of really nice drives in the fourth quarter, just taking over with her athleticism. In the Eastern held a 9 point lead going into the buzzer. Northern Colorado hit like a half court shot at the end to close it down to 6, but it really was more of a 9 point lead going into the end of the game. Just some kind of overall takeaways. Eastern took advantage of all their opportunities offensively, despite having kind of a tougher night shooting defensive wise, a tougher night defensive wise. It was, one of Eastern's rougher offensive or defensive performances in terms of like opponent field goal percentage. Um, you know, Northern Colorado shot 50% from three, which is not common for Eastern's defense. Typically, Eastern's defense, they were the number one defense in the league coming into this game at opponent 3 point percentage, really forcing a lot of contested threes rather than open threes. And they got a few nice open threes, but hit a few contested ones as well. And then allowed 44% from the field. Again, that's kind of one of the worst opponent field goal percentages for Eastern Washington on the year. Allowing 62 points as well is more than typical for Eastern Washington. There was a few missed assignments and stuff like that on defense that allowed Northern Colorado to build or to score 62 points, especially in that first quarter is where it really, really hurt, allowing 21 points in the first quarter and then not allowing over 15 the rest of the game. The Eagles out rebounded Northern Colorado 39-32. with 16 offensive rebounds, which is just outstanding. 16 offensive rebounds is ridiculous. Uh, they outscored Northern Colorado on second chance points by 8 points, uh, 20-12. And it really felt like almost all of those first chance points were in that first quarter or second chance points were in the second quarter. First quarter, Jesus, first and second, it got me all mixed up. It felt like almost all of those 12 second chance points from Northern Colorado were scored in the first quarter. Um, allowing them to build their early lead. The Eagles also forced 16 turnovers, leading to 20 points off of those 16 turnovers as well. It was another 20-12 margin for Eastern Washington, scoring 20 points off of turnovers. Northern Colorado only scored 12 off of those 16 off of their turnovers that they forced Eastern to do, which could be a problem for Eastern Washington. It really felt like that. They also got the ball inside when threes weren't falling. Eastern Washington did. They outscored Northern Colorado in the paint, 32-26, and leaning on Jaleesa Lawrence and Bella Hayes had a nice night from the paint as well. Uh, you know, getting the ball inside when shots outside weren't falling was key. Just looking at some box score stuff for Eastern Washington, Jamie Loetta had a nice night, 16 points. She had a tough night offensively in terms of turnovers. She was getting a little aggressive with the passes that led to um, a few bad turnovers. Bella Hayes also had 4 turnovers, which wasn't key, but um, tonight was all about Jaleesa Lawrence. Jaleesa Lawrence was a big spark off the bench. She had 17 points, which led the team. Shot 58% from the field, had 3 rebounds. Um, you know, Loetta, I already mentioned Loetta, but she went 6 for 6 from the free throw line, which is key. She made a big impact defensively, though. She made a lot of non-box score type plays, tipping passes, saving balls, stuff like that. She also grabbed 3 rebounds. Aaliyah Alexander had a relatively well-rounded performance. She had 7 rebounds and 13 points. Yeah, 7 points. I wrote the wrong number on my notes here. Buckley made some nice, Jacinta Buckley made a few nice hustle plays along with her 9 points. She had 3 steals and 4 rebounds. And a lot of that came in the fourth quarter down the stretch when things mattered. Bella Hayes, like I kind of mentioned, she crashed the boards real hard. She had 8 rebounds on the night, which were 4 of them were offensively. And it felt like all 7 of her points were um, second chance points on the offensive glass. She also had 2 block shots that in that early in the game that slowed down Northern Colorado when they were hot. Um, One thing to note offensively for Eastern Washington, turnovers definitely felt like a problem in this one. It felt like a game where if Eastern takes care of the ball, they win this one by 12, 15 plus. Um, you know, they turn the ball over they turn the ball over 13 times, which isn't key. They forced 16 turnovers, but turning the ball over 13 times is too many. If you just cut down Hayes by 2 turnovers, cut down Loetta's down by 2 turnovers, cut down Wood from Alexander, all of a sudden you're looking at a really nice game taking care of the ball. Yep. And then you know, would like to see Eagle women take care of the ball better. Holding Semitol to just 6 points for them was key. Semitol is one of their best players, number 10 here. She played almost the whole game. She had an okay night. She had 6 assists as well as 6 rebounds, but she's a really good scorer, and holding her to just 6 points was nice. Delaney Byrne and Saneka Hackley, I'm not even going to try too much more. Both had 14 to 16 points, 7 rebounds for Byrne. Byrne had a really nice game overall. She hit a lot of shots in timely moments. Uh, Anaya Hall also had 10 points off the bench. She was a force on the inside in this game when Millie Knowles was out and Hayes was having to guard her. Hall had a relatively nice game on the inside there. But that's kind of it for this game. Again, it felt like a game where Eastern was the better, more well-rounded team. But just little dumb things, giving up too many offensive rebounds, turning the ball over too much, kind of is what kept Northern Colorado in this game. Northern Colorado is a really good shooting team as well, but yeah. So now we're going to look at kind of the women's basketball standings here. That puts Eastern Washington at number one for the women's side of things. Again, 6-0 in conference as well as the men. Um, and then number two, Saturday's opponent, Northern Arizona. This will be a really fun one on the women's side of things. Number three is Montana at 5-2. Four is Northern Colorado at 4-2. Five is Montana State 4-3. 6 and 7, or six is Idaho State at 4-3. 7 Weber State at 3-4. Idaho 2-4 at 8, and then 9 is a 0 for tie between Portland State and Sacramento State. All right, and so now we are gonna we're gonna start previewing the Northern Arizona games here. Um, so men's side of things, I got to see Northern Arizona in Moscow last night. They're a very shockingly okay team, in my opinion. They beat Idaho, but Idaho was hanging tough with them for a half. Um, you know, um, where is my? This is what I wanted. So Northern Arizona is kind of a meh offensive team. They're very middle of the pack in a lot of categories. Kind of a meh offensive team. Um, looking here, they're sixth in the conference in overall scoring, but um, they're a pretty piss poor defense, and they're number 9 in the conference in points allowed. Excuse me, man. Um, Number 9 in the conference in points allowed. They are kind of a mediocre shooting team. Actually, they're one of the worst shooting teams in the conference, shooting just 41% and 28% from three. They really run their offense through number 24. Number 24, Trenton McLaughlin here. In conference, he's averaging 16 point. Oh, nope, that's the wrong stats. I'm going to go to the conference stats here. In conference, he's averaging 18 points. He's definitely kind of who their offense flows through. Number 24, Trenton McLaughlin. Yeah, he's a very tall guy that could go. He's more of a go-to scorer from them. He's a really nice pure shooter. Um, he's really good at those contested turnaround jumpers. He knocked down a bunch of them in Moscow last night, as well as a really nice catch and shoot 3-point shooter. But after that, their offensive production definitely drops off. Both Carson Basham and Oakland Fort. Oakland Fort is a guard for them, and Carson Basham is their starting big guy. They're both okay offensively, but they're definitely nothing like a Trenton McLaughlin, who's just a really nice shooter. Um, Carson Basham he's a well-rounded good player. He's more of a defensive force for them. He averages a couple of blocks per game. Um, he rebounds the ball pretty well as well, averaging just shy of 7 a game in a high field goal percentage. They really like to run a pick and roll game with Oakland Fort and Carson Basham, with McLaughlin kind of out on the corner or on the wing, posted up, waiting for a outlet pass or a kick out pass. It kind of feels like their go-to thing. They also run their offense very fast when they bring the big guys out. Sometimes they will bring in CJ Ford, another guard on their team. He's number 0, and then Oakland Fort, who is number 4, and they will just run around in the fastest they can, just kind of running a bunch of different crazy little cuts and all this stuff that, I don't know if it really all has a purpose, but the way that they're moving so quick, kind of they get lost in the sauce defensively, and gives them some open shots, open 3-pointers, open little layups and stuff like that. You can tell this NAU team is coached well. I just don't think they have the talent that some of the best teams in the Big Sky really have. Um, kind of looking at the overall the conference stats so far. Like I said, NAU is one of the worst shooting teams in the conference, shooting just 41% from the field, as well as 28% from three. Probably the worst shooting team in the conference overall, just behind Idaho, who has been nothing short of horrible. And then they really are just kind of middle of the pack in everything else, except for they allow a lot of defensive points, allowing 74 points a game to Eastern Washington's 65. Um, this is a game that Eastern really should dominate. Um, if they are who they say they are, you know what I'm saying. Um, just diving back into NAU, they give up just shy of 75 points a game, and defensively they kind of flop between a man and zone. I think Eastern has the better players, and they should be able to dominate man. They also should be able to pass the ball well, like they do, and shoot well to beat that zone. Um, Like I already mentioned, Carson Basham's probably their best defensive player, but Liam Lloyd and McLaughlin both will get a couple of steals per game as well. Liam Lloyd, number 21, McLaughlin, number 24. They're okay defenders as well. But this should be, like I said, this should be a game Eastern dominates. This is Eastern's by far the better team in my opinion. Northern Arizona is a very mediocre team at best. But this should be a revenge game for these these Eagles, because NAU is the team that knocked Eastern out of the tournament in that first round last year, the Big Sky tournament, with the buzzer beater. And I don't know. I want to beat the crap out of them, because that was tough. I'm really hoping to kind of wipe the floor with NAU here, and kind of move on to the Montanas next week with some more confidence and more momentum. Um, I would hope to see a better shooting night from the Eags. I think if the Eags can shoot relatively well, um, this game's not even close. If the Eags struggle to shoot, I think it'll be a little bit closer. But Eastern's just so much better on the inside than NAU. Basham is a really nice player on the inside, but I think Price and Eric Shep are both better players offensively, specifically. Um, NAU is well coached. They run a really nice offensive scheme that really suits the talent that is on the floor for them. But um, I think Eastern's defense is going to be too good uh, for NAU. That's kind of my hope and what I'm expecting. But you never know, man. It's college basketball. Anything could freaking happen. Um, but moving over to the women's side of things here, this one should be a real fun one. Um, I gotta find my stats page here. Um, so NAU, like I said, they're number two in the conference right now at I think they're 5-1 or 5-2. I can't quite remember. I have a different page up. But here is the team stats. NAU is a really good offensive team. They lead the league in scoring at 78 points a game. This is in conference stats again, like I've said. But they're kind of a okay to bad defensive team. They give up 69 a game. Um, they have one of the best scoring margins in the league, nothing like Eastern's, but this will be a battle between the best defense in the league versus the best offense in the league. This should be a really fun one to watch. NIU shoots the ball really well, shooting 44% from the field, but they give up 41% from the field. One of the worst in the conference. Um, and they shoot decent from the three, just shy of 36%, but they give up 30%. They're definitely a case of a really good offensive team, okay defensive team, and it'll be fun to watch. The rest of these, they're a really good passing team. They lead the league in assists offensively, and good offensive team. Middle of the pack in steals, middle of the pack in block shots. Nothing middle of the pack to sort of the top in rebounding stats. Um, but like I said, they're pretty well rounded team, and they pass the ball really well. But it's an offensive first team that will be a fun matchup. I think this game really comes down to, you know, It seems like it'll be the Eagle D versus the Northern Arizona O, but I think Northern Arizona is gonna score their points. I think this comes down to the Eastern offense. I think Eastern has to be able to score on this NAU defense that isn't the greatest defense that Eastern will be playing this year, and shooting the three will be important, but also just being overall balanced and scoring the ball, making your shots. I think they need to shoot better than you know 40 or whatever. Let me look what it was versus NAU. 41% from the field, 25% from three. Need to shoot a little bit better than that. If the Eagles shoot a little bit better than that, I have confidence that Eastern should be able to pull away and win this one. But it should be a close one down the stretch, and it'll be a fun matchup. Um, but like I said, definitely think there's a lot of pressure on the Eastern on the offensive side of the ball to score enough to keep this one relatively um, competitive. I think Eastern's the better team, but I have a feeling that NAU is gonna score their points. They're a good passing team, and they've scored points on everyone they've played. So they come into the NAU comes in this game. Shoot, they're man, I am all mixed up. They come into the game 13-6 overall, 5-1 in conference. They're a good team. It should be a close one. It should be a fun game. That's kind of all I've got. Well, I guess I could look at the player stats. Sorry, my tabs were all mixed up. Here is the conference stats for Northern Arizona. Sophie Glancy leads the team in scoring at 17 points a game, followed by Leah Beatty and Olivia Moran, both 14, 12. Emily wow, Rade Rodabo, I can't remember. She averages 10 points. Um, it's a very well-rounded team overall, except for it looks like Sophie Glancy is just kind of their best player all around. She leads the team in rebounds. She leads the team in block shots. She leads the team in scoring. Leads the team, not leads the team, but has averages just over an assist a game. Um, But yeah, I think that's all I really got for previewing NAU. Um, you know, we'll see how this goes. It should be a competitive game on the women's side of things. It shouldn't be a competitive game on the men's side of things. The men should dominate this one, but um, we'll see. College basketball is crazy, and anything can happen. So next week we should be keeping an eye out for a NAU recap, as well as a Montana and Montana State preview. Those are some big games for both the men's and the women's. Montana State are two of the best basketball programs, both on the men's and women's sides of things. So should be a really fun weekend and a week of basketball next week. But that's about all I got for today, guys. Thank you guys all for listening. Pack Reese on Saturday. I believe it's alumni and family day. There's t-shirt ticket package on sale. I don't know if it's still on sale or what the situation is there, but yeah, get to Reese, everyone. It should be a fun day down there in Cheney. Should be a fun Eagle win if they can play their brand of basketball. So excited to watch both these teams this weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you guys for listening, and go Eags.